listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
Okay, so I just want to be the first to tell everyone that there's an exciting trend coming in 2025.
Wow.
Maximalism. Have you heard this yet?
Oh. Is that back?
Yeah.
Is that like...
That's the opposite of what you do, Lisa.
I know, but I'm thinking, so there's an interesting confluence. Is that a word?
Confluence?
Is that a real word? I just didn't make that up.
No, it's a real
Okay.
word. I swear.
So
Yeah.
the confluence is that there was an article I read about how baby boomers are moving out of their homes and they've got so much stuff.
I see.
And they're leaving it to their kids who don't want it, but some of them do because, here's the argument, they lived in these houses with too much stuff, but now they were subjected to that whole, like, what do they call it? The Apple store aesthetic, you know? And now they're ready to get back into embracing the maximalism that they grew up with. Now, I don't know if that will extend to like wanting wallpaper with ducks, you know, like that trend. And
hold on
ducks.
1 second. Yeah. I just have to say, I recently ordered wallpaper with swans.
Oh! Wow.
That we are putting up in our bathroom at
Always
some point in the new
ahead
year.
of the curve, AG.
But I don't think they look like those 90s ducks, do they? Like, it's probably way more sophisticated, I'm sure.
They're giant, like they're oversized. It's a small bathroom, so we're going with like
the maximalism.
It's a choice.
Yeah. I love it. But honestly, like the tension between a small space and giant birds attacking you while you're trying to pee, I love that energy. Like that is a wild energy.
Yeah.
And I hope you actually pipe Bjork constantly into the bathroom because like she's the person I associate like Swan with as the most at this point.
You don't think?
Oh no, wait, they're not swans. They're herons.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
and it's on a black wallpaper, so
right.
the bathroom's going to be very.
I love it.
Dramatic.
Okay, but this
maximal.
Yeah, this also sounds like, and I'm just guessing here because wallpaper can be very expensive. It sounds like a very expensive one. Is it?
We're only doing one wall, and it's a small bathroom.
So it's like expensive, but like not so many walls. So
yeah,
like
exactly. It's not. If you're doing a whole room, it's expensive. But if you got like a feature wall, it's,
right? Yeah,
it's not too bad.
So do you think, I think I've talked about this a bit on the podcast this year, about how Carlos is like very firmly in his beak freak era. Are you now also in your beak freak era?
No, but it just what Lisa was talking about really resonated with me because, like our house we were finding it a little too, like we went with kind of a very plain, minimal decor with it. And now as we're living in it, finding it like we need more color, we need more interest, we need to do more stuff. And that's why we're just going for it with the bathroom to start off with. And then maybe it'll just take over the whole house.
Well, that's
see.
the idea. That's apparently that's what's going to be happening this year is people are going to be, again, I mean, I think that the trouble with trying to envision it is it will have its own 2025 look. But whenever I think of maximalism, I just think of 70s because it was so much like, just like oranges and green, like so much. Because everything seemed to start stripping. Well, 80s too. There's a big 80s.
80s is a different kind of maximalism. I feel like that was cocaine binge was like the actual aesthetic.
Yes.
That explains a lot of the acid wash and like the neons and stuff. But like what I'm choosing to think about this, if this is truly like our trend for 2025, I like to think about this as like a beautiful tribute to Iris Apfel, who passed this year. And I believe it was this year. I ever since we watched that documentary, like a long time ago, AG, I remember both of us being like, why aren't we more like Iris? And I really have continued to live my life thinking I need to be more like Iris. So I'm
you
here
need
for
bigger
it.
glasses. You need more caftans,
Big
bigger
beads,
prints.
big beads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big jewelry.
Yeah. I always need to be more iris. That's you know what? Good. 2025 sounds nice.
But so, Lisa, are you going to incorporate this in your aesthetic, seeing as how it's really the opposite of what you like to do?
Yes.
Your Danish minimalism.
Well, but what I've noticed is I've started to really enjoy buying little pieces of art. I bought some on the weekend. A little, let me show you this. It's so cute. A little painting. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I was at like a fundraiser, and they had all of these square pieces of art, like about 200 of them, and you just chose one and bought it, and it helped. And they had no names on them, so all of the different artists made them. And so I'm thinking if I do more of that, I might still have a minimalist feel, but lots of artwork. Is that still the same thing?
That's nice.
That's nice.
What's that?
I mean, it sounds like the beginnings of a gallery, which I honestly think you should turn your basement into a art gallery that you open up and let people like walk through.
There is a woman in Vancouver that does that with her own apartment. She just puts up art and she has shows every couple of months. I'm not doing that though.
Not yet.
No, well, that's a whole other thing. But I've got some Christmas lights up, so maybe I'm creeping in to
Dipping your toe into maximalism.
It's just that I find I really like black. I like wearing black. I feel good when I see somebody like an ad. Like there's this ad right now with Lily Collins, from Emily in Paris. It's just this Cartier ad, and it's just her and like black stretchy pants and a black turtleneck, and I'm just like, that's it. I would like to look like that every day. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I think this actually is, like, strangely enough, the perfect segue for this episode, because we have a movie that is kind of more minimalist and more in Lisa's aesthetic. And then we have really what is the most maximalist, nightmare one could possibly imagine. And that's, my beloved. So I think this is a great time to segue.
I think you're right.
Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And I'm Marissa Stapley.
Yay!
Welcome.
And you're all listening to Pop This, and we're so excited to have Marissa with us today. Just like what a thrill and an honor, and really catching you on kind of a big few weeks. It's what a time. And like, not to put extra pressure on you, but you're joining us for the 10th anniversary of our most important episode of the year, Love Actually versus The Holiday.
I'm so honored. I'm not even exaggerating. Not a hint of hyperbole. When you asked me, I was like, seriously? Yes. Like, even when you were like, it's 10 p.m. and I go to bed at 8 because I get up so early, I was like, I might.
Wow. Wow. I honestly, thank you so much. That's really lovely. I'm so glad that you're here. When I saw that you were basically hosting a screening of The Holiday, and then I understood the extent to which The Holiday meant to you and some of your books, I was just like, this would be such a good person to talk about, because look, dude, we've been talking about these movies.
Listen, we're scraping the bottom. Not everyone has thoughts on anymore, but I mean, I have thoughts. It was clear.
Good. Like, seriously, I actually still have thoughts, because I don't think I'll ever be tired of talking about these movies. But like, and we also have not really had a ton of people who've been avowed Love Actually experts and fans. This is 2 years in a row we've really sort of like nestled in with a holiday
Weirdly,
expert.
they're hard to find.
Weirdly, they're hard to
Well,
find.
Rachel at the
yes, that's true.
A couple of
That's
years
true.
ago, she was a big Love Actually fan.
Big Love Actually fan.
Yeah.
But I'm excited that you also rewatched Love Actually for this adventure and also have thoughts. So I truly so excited.
I have thoughts. I mean, I feel like I love Love Actually. I think I mentioned when we were in the green room, like, it feels like a bad ex-boyfriend. Like, I would go back to in a second.
Wow.
If he would just change a few little things. But currently, The Holiday and I are very happy. So we're married.
I'll keep your resume on file. Maybe I'll call you. Yeah.
This is an excellent way to think about these movies. I am going to read your bio now, if that's cool. Just because we kind of people know what we're here for. We know about some of the background stuff. We probably don't need to read all of it, but I want to read your bio. Marissa Stapley is the New York Times best-selling author of Lucky, a Reese's Book Club pick, now in production at Apple TV Plus as a limited series starring Anya Taylor-Joy. Woohoo!
Wow.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting. Her most recent novel, The Lightning Bottles, is a story of 90s rock and star-crossed love. She has also co-written several internationally best-selling holiday romance novels, including The Holiday Swap and 3 Holidays and a Wedding. Writing under the pen name Julia McKay, she recently released the international bestseller The Holiday Honeymoon Switch and is hard at work on her next festive novel. She lives in Toronto with her family. Thank you so much, Marissa. What an incredible bio.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for having me. Truly. Thank you.
Well, it's quite artificial. I was going to say it's quite an artificial debate. Really, these two movies have no business having to be verses, but
Come on. This is life or death for me. Artificial debate. What else could we be debating?
I just want to review one thing in the bio. Did you have interaction with Reese?
Oh.
I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
What is she like?
Okay. I have, oh my God, yes. So I have teenage children. They're 16 and 17. I have received, this is a flex, but I'm going to flex it anyway, enough DMs on Instagram from Reese that everyone's kind of cool about it now. They're like, oh, there's Reese again. We've had interactions. I also did meet her when the book club pick was announced. They had an event in LA and I went and I got to meet her. She is amazing. She is truly everything she appears and more. She's so dedicated to uplifting women's stories. She's just super passionate and really, really kind. And I love her. She's I feel like she's my patron saint.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And lifting women is so what Love Actually does.
Right?
It's just a big part of it.
Hugh loves to lift a woman. And
Can we get her redistributed? Is that Oh, you mean the one with the big thighs? Oh my God,
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, just
I didn't mean to. I just had to go in there, but I'm just glowing about your Reese stories because that's wonderful.
She's great.
That's what you want to hear.
She's great.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, it's just it's been a real. It's not easy being an author or an artist at all. It's a challenging career path, and being lifted up in this way, it's changed my life. And I try to pay it forward when I can. I really do. It's nice to be in that position to be able to do that too. So.
Yeah.
It's been a nice thing.
Well,
yeah.
And especially I don't know, I gotta say, I think attitudes have changed dramatically the last several years, but for a long time, people were kind of a little bit boo, rom-com all over the place in so many different ways, movies and books. And so I'm really curious, how did you get into making that part of your writing process?
So when I first started writing books, this was maybe 13, 14 years ago, and I was writing what was at the time called chick lit.
Yeah.
That was what it was called. And then I was told nobody wants this. This happens every once in a while, particularly with something that women are consuming. So nobody wanted chick lit, and then it was nobody knew what to call it. And then all of a sudden the rom-com title came, it had a resurgence, and I realized it was chick lit, and I love what was once called chick lit. I have such a passion for it, and it really ticks me off that, romances or rom-coms or commercial or pop culture, that the majority of consumers of it are generally women. It's called a guilty pleasure, or suddenly people decide nobody wants it, or it's silly. Then I don't think it's silly. I've never thought that. I think Emily Henry gave a great interview with Time last year talking about how important, romance and rom-com are because of the pact that you make with your reader. You're giving them a happy ending, which, by the way, as an aside, I'm sorry, that's one thing that pisses me off about Love Actually is that we're having all of these things we don't know what happens. Like, what? Sorry, it's really upsetting. Like, we want a happy ending. Like, romance readers, if you don't give them a happy ending, they might come to your house. Like, and I love that. But as Emily Henry said, you can go to dark places, you can deal with dark stuff, but we've made a deal. So you sit down to read a book or watch a movie and you're like, I'm going to feel a certain way at the end of this, even if I've thought deeply about grief or, what I want for my life, etc. So I take this genre very seriously, and I really took chick lit seriously too. So I just wanted to be there, to just be present when it came to the forefront again.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's really important about the idea that that's the agreed upon outcome, and that being something that you can count on. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that before. Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. I have more thoughts, but I just don't want us to be here all night.
We have a job to do.
I guess everyone has jobs. Fine. Yeah. Fine.
Blah, blah. But yes,
jobs,
in a nutshell.
Do you remember when you first saw The Holiday and why it spoke to you?
So I can't. I was thinking about, because you did give me a little peek into the questions, and I cannot remember the first time I saw it. It's sort of like it was in the era where, I was very into Bridget Jones and that kind of thing. And I just wanted my life to look a certain way. And I loved the way that this kind of gave me I love a multiple storyline, which again is why Love Actually is so disappointing, because it could be so great. But I love that dual timeline, and I adored it so much, and it gave me this certain feeling. I can't remember the first time I saw it. I just remember it kind of it burrowed into my heart. It kind of like you meet a good friend. You're like, how did we meet? I don't know. We have always known each other.
I've just always lived in a small cottage, and you've always lived in a large mansion, and we've just always been in each other's lives. No, it's nice.
Yes.
That's really nice.
The reason I always remember where I saw The Holiday first is because I went to the theater, because rom-coms and me are I go to the theater to see a rom-com. I don't wait to,
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the theater to see George Clooney and Julia Roberts in that Paradise movie, whatever that was.
What was that?
Honestly, I have a lot of questions with that because I watched it on the plane.
That's a debate for next year.
That's a different.
But yeah, I love them so much. However, I also did see Love Actually in the theater. And I remember just leaving so angry. Just
oh, really? Right from day one, you were angry leaving the theater. Like you've never had any love.
No, if they're we're not spoilers here or anything, obviously, but just even if I did like anything, that Emma Thompson storyline to me will haunt me until I die.
I don't know you, but I love this about you. I loved it. I was like, I Love Actually, so good, so good, so good. And then it was just not too long ago that I was so horrified that I had ever loved it. So the fact that you went in, whatever year it was, because I forget,
2003.
Things we did not know things, or we were not processing things then. People were not talking about it, and you came out mad. That makes you a better person than many others, or smarter. Or
I just have an expectation of my rom-coms, as Emily Henry said. Richard Curtis generally had been a provider of some fantastic feelings. I mean, four weddings and a funeral is complicated and weird, but he did still end up with Andie MacDowell, right? I mean, that happened. Notting Hill. Oh, that was fun. Right? Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, there they were together. I wasn't expecting this. How is this Christmas? So anyway, I believe I was with a friend of mine who is British, and I just looked at her and I said, this is trash. Absolutely.
I'm sorry to take Hugh Grant's name in vain, because this may have been pre his fall from grace too, right? Or momentary, but Yeah, no, I know. It's upsetting.
So-
it is upsetting. It's hard not to keep going there.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire film, and it's one of the things that I think makes Love Actually salvageable. Like, why I don't write off Love Actually is partly that Emma Thompson scene. I love it so much. And this year, I gotta say, I had extra appreciation for the fact that it's so important that it's the version that they use is the older Joni singing both sides now.
That's what I was going to
so
say.
important.
Like, when I watched the scene this time, I was like, the CD seems like a much better gift every year than that ugly necklace.
I know, right? Yes.
Well, that yes.
That for some reason, Mr. Bean packed. Like, what? Sorry, that. Sorry, I'm going to just jump in here for a second and say that this year I was in LA when Joni Mitchell was doing her Hollywood Bowl concert. And I went by myself. I grabbed a ticket. I ran there. And so I actually will say the moments of Joni Mitchell in that particular version, I was feeling that in a bit of a different way.
Yeah.
Than previously when I was, because I've been a longtime Joni Mitchell fan. So when this movie first came out, I was like, oh, I don't know about this jazz thing that she's doing. But now I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Both sides now. Get it.
You know what's funny too is I think that one of the really fun things about the movie and both of them now is that before they came out, we didn't, have social media and everyone making great little TikToks and reels. I mean, anyway,
Yeah.
I saw a woman do one this year, how she's still mad about the Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson scene. And something I hadn't noticed before, which she did, which is after Emma Thompson cries and comes downstairs, Alan Rickman is so proud of himself because he got the kids in their effing coats. And he goes, look at me.
Yeah.
Am I not the best? I got the kids in coats. And I thought, oh my God. Anyway, then she cut to the Die Hard scene where he falls out of the building.
It is. Then he opens the front door, and sadly, he's shot. Like
Yeah, super important to really like follow that up with a bit of Die Hard. So I just want to go back. So how did the holiday end up like inspiring, like finding its way into sort of inspiring you to write a book?
So as I mentioned, I love I am a big fan of multiple timelines, or at least dual timelines. So when I was thinking about, and I do a holiday rom-com every year. So I'm always like, what book do I want to write this year? Like this is my treat to myself. Like, what do I want to write? And next year it's like Christmas at I can't say it, but there are horses and it's all very.
That already sounds amazing.
I know. And there's a Stetson, and I was like, this is what's giving me joy this year. But last year I had thought over Christmas during my watch of the holiday, like, I just love this. But also, what if they were best friends already? Like, I kind of, there's the final scene, and you can see that they're going to be lifelong friends, or at least in my mind they are. But what if they were already friends? Like, what if I could just kind of rewrite this to have friends swapping holidays? So that's, I think, where that came from, and just the idea of a dual timeline where the characters were known to each other and they could kind of play off of each other makes it easier to move a narrative along. Although now that I think about it, it might be like if they were learning things about each other, maybe it could have been a little easier, because sometimes I was like, what are they going to talk about? Like when they are their best friends. But yeah, I mean, I also think, importantly, I'm a feminist, obviously, and I want my rom-coms to everyone to have agency and everyone to be empowered, and no female story to only exist because there's a man there to make it exist.
Yeah.
So, and I feel that in the holiday, that is that works. That's what's happening there. That's part of what I like about it, is that there are these women. They're doing their thing, they have their lives, and they don't exist, and their storyline doesn't exist because of a male character, in my opinion. So I think that's why I thought that would work for my holiday, like a little tiny holiday reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I can't believe like yearly you're talking about, like, because you have other books that also like have to come out. Like this is a impressive schedule.
So I won't do it again where I put 2 books out in one fall ever. And everyone was like, it'll be fine because and it really was just sort of fine. But it's funny because I thought, okay, I have had, things are going well. You know, there are good things happening in my career. And I thought maybe it was time to let go of the holiday rom-coms because they were almost like insurance for me, like a day job in a way, like just a very steady writing gig.
Yeah.
But I can't and I won't. Like there was a part of me that was like, if I'm letting go of anything, it's literally everything else. And I'm just going to be happy writing holiday rom-coms forever. So
That's awesome. And I love this.
So normally I don't do, the lightning bottles took me like 6 years to write or something like that. And I wrote Lucky and kind of in between. But I think it'll be like once every couple of years, there'll be 2 books out in 1 year. But usually it's just one. And I don't, I'm a writer and I love writing. I don't think that I could get through, I mean, I'm about to go on a 2-week holiday and I'm not bringing my laptop, mostly so that I don't just start writing a new book.
Have you considered,
Wow.
have you considered going to a country to write your book and you have some kind of like servant who doesn't speak your language? And, that maybe be able to tidy up around you and that maybe, I don't know, you could start a fling with them? Like, have you...
I have not considered that, but what I have thought about is if I were to do that, what I would not do is, because I'm not writing literature, because I'm writing, let's say, a thriller or crime novel, I wouldn't just call it trash or like look down on it. Don't worry, it's just garbage. It's not Shakespeare. I would never say that. I'd be like, you know what? I poured my heart and soul into this and it's very smart fiction. So yeah, if I did have someone working for me, I'd be like, take your clothes off and you jump into that pond. You get that for me.
You would definitely type out only one copy.
Right, of course, on my typewriter while sitting by the pond. Yes,
Outdoors,
absolutely.
In a windy countryside. It
so can happen to anyone, really.
It's so importantly, I don't drive though. By the way, I don't have my driver's license, so I would never really get in like a situation where I'd be driving someone home. So where's the romance in
Where's
that?
the romance? Yeah, if you haven't absolutely caused a small car accident after saying goodbye to the fling that you cannot communicate with.
And who cares anyway, because she's so pretty. Plus, he fell in love with her when she took her clothes off.
Exactly.
We saw it. We all saw it.
Yeah.
Who's the fan of Love Actually here?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, look, I understand. I understand what I have done to myself and the world. I really, in 2003, when it came out, I really did love it. Unironically, like unapologetically, like I did not at that time fully see almost any problem with it outside of the fat shaming. Because I was just, I don't know, I was still young. Not that young, unfortunately. Wish I had been younger because it would be more excusable. But I was, let me do the math. I was 24 when it came out, and that's when I saw it. And I remember seeing it in the theater, and I'm pretty sure I saw it with my best friend, and she was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And I was like, it made me laugh, and it was sweet, and I cried. And there's stuff I didn't like at the time, but like and then I grew to really love it. And I love how dark it is. I love that it starts with a funeral. I love the ways that it talks about grief and then tries to make jokes about grief as a means of coping with grief. I love Christmas. I have some really sad stuff has happened in my life around Christmas, which I've talked about. I won't bore everyone again with it, but I just I think for me, Christmas holds all of the feelings. And I think Love Actually tries to at least address all of the feelings. And obviously in the last 10 years, as we've been doing this, it gets harder every year to watch a little bit. There is a hour-long version of this movie that exists that is so much less problematic than the current one that runs it over 2 hours. But I think my realization a couple of years ago was that I really blame Richard Curtis for a lot of things. I realized that even though a lot of the men in this movie are absolute trash and their behaviors are awful, the way that it's sort of gotten around a lot of the stuff is that it's always the women that make the actual sexual contact overtures. Every single, even though like there's lots of like sort of like even the Colin stuff, who's like disgusting, it's always the women who make the actual like overtures, except for the one explicit scene where obviously the president of the United States has been a lech and is disgusting. And then we see, you know, she loses her job because apparently she just was sexually harassed wrong. She didn't, I don't know, murder him as retaliation. But so I'm going on a long way, but
No.
what I realized last night or the night before, whenever I watched this, Love Actually is not really supposed to be a rom-com per se. I think that it is a sex comedy disguised as a rom-com, but because it's both British and Christmas, its horniness is couched in like this droll perversity and a little bit of grief and sadness and these charming scenes and sweaters and actors. So I think Richard Curtis wanted to make a sex comedy, and so he put it at Christmas so he could get away with a lot of stuff.
And Benny Hill wasn't working anymore. So
What I realized after a decade of slogging through this movie that I don't really like, and I never really liked it. Every year we talk about like how much I don't like this film, and Lisa doesn't like this film. But watching it this year, I was like, the storylines of Colin and the American girls and the Rowan Atkinson scenes, like that are just kind of so out there, just made me think that like, I think what's happening in this movie is that all the characters, like none of this is happening to them. They've all like just gone to sleep at Christmas time. And this movie represents their deepest fears and like their desires and their darkest dreams of what's deeply embedded in their psyche. And yeah, we're just seeing fever dreams of all of these characters.
Speaking of the American Girl storyline, I saw something I hadn't seen when I watched it last night, which that guy's an incel.
Oh yeah,
right?
For sure.
Wow,
For
wow.
sure.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like
Like
Yes.
he insults that woman, the caterer, insults her very badly,
Yep.
and then goes and is like, oh my God, all British women are stuck up. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh Jesus. And then gets to go have a whole bunch of sex. And oh gosh, I mean, you know what? Okay, interesting sex comedy, fine. But it had such potential as a true, beautiful romance. And I will say, I also have a very big problem with One Day by David Nichols. David Nichol. Because, spoiler alert, she dies. And I think maybe men don't have any, I shouldn't say this, but many male directors and writers don't actually understand what it is to write a romance. They haven't made that pact.
Yeah.
So they don't get it. Like my husband will read my books. He's like, haha, why don't you blow something up at the end? Haha. And I'm like, that's not funny. Like,
Oh my God.
but like these men are doing that, right? They're
Yeah.
kind of, so yeah, I mean, you can't kill someone at the end of a romance, and you can't leave storylines dangling, and we can't, but it has so much potential. But I'm going to kind of segue into, because I don't know that I've really fully explained like what I truly love about the holidays. I don't think that we should be thinking this hard during the holidays. We don't need, okay, like, so I get it. It shouldn't have been a Christmas film. It should have just been a sex comedy other time of the year, because during the holidays, what I really want, by the way, is I want that side story with the old man.
Yes.
Like,
I love
I
Eli
want,
Roth.
Yes.
That's
Eli,
my
I
favorite.
want that. That's
Yeah.
so important. Like, it's kind of like a reminder, like make time for your elderly relatives or friends who are alone. And I feel though that with the holiday, that storyline definitely came at the expense of chemistry and anything sexy at all happening between Kate Winslet and Jack Black
Yeah, I would have
characters.
honestly like been okay with her hooking up with Eli.
Right.
Like, they had more
Something.
chemistry to me.
Or just like maybe the writer in me was kind of like, what if, but because one of the great things about Love Actually is the connections, which I love. It's like catnip for me as a reader or a viewer. When somebody is connected to somebody, you're like, oh my God, that person's cousin or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe it could have been like they had a little frisson, and then it turned out that Jack Black had a novel or a book that Jude Law's character was the editor of, and then they just happened to be together on New Year's Eve, like that.
Yeah.
That maybe, as opposed to us suddenly believing that he would go to the UK. That's a problem. But otherwise, I just think it's just so lovely, and we could just sort of coast along, and we know everything's going to be okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And it also doesn't have to be jarringly imperfect. It's just, just.
You mean things are allowed to just exist?
Yeah.
Wait, tell me more about this wild theory. What's going on?
That's what the holidays are all about. We're just all doing our best here, right? So I don't think that it's a good idea to get really mad and potentially enraged at this time of year as you're heading into these holiday dinners.
I mean, you're right, but sadly.
I also, another thing I was going to say that, when a movie to me is really fantastic, it's because all the little parts are thought of, the way this film looks and feels, and the Hans Zimmer music. It is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. When Cameron Diaz does the run, and that is playing, I don't know. It makes me think of those a sweeping movie like the Bridge Over the River Kwai, and they have the music really crescendo. That's Hans Zimmer. He added some gravitas to this.
It elevates it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And again, it's like a little treat. It's like frosting, glitter, and I agree with you. That's part of it for me. And it's kind of like you're a little tired, you've been wrapping presents or whatever's going on, and then this music is playing. And you're like, oh, I'm feeling these things. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love the line, you're so right. You're supposed to be the leading lady of your own life, for God's sake. That classic. Alone is just a reason. And that is something, there's such a difference between the two movies. And look, one is, there's a male director, there's a female director. That's just a different, it just feels so different. But I think that was almost before its time, right? That idea of we can be leading ladies and we can, again, not exist just because a man makes us exist, just because we're the assistant of the man or the American Girls or, the sister of the prime minister or the wife of the philanderer. We actually we exist. There's just something, the holiday felt like a beginning of the feminist rom-com to me.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't perfect.
Well, I think Nancy Meyers has done a lot of I only listed the ones she's written and directed, but a lot of the stuff that she's written in her life has been just so clearly about her insistence that women characters matter.
Well, we did her first movie that she wrote was Private Benjamin, right?
Yeah,
that was the first one. When we watched that was it's so hard to put yourself back into a place where that wasn't the general story, that she was going to say to that man, what? Wait a second. I didn't come all this way to deal with this, for the ending there.
Oh, I don't know if I can talk about the crying thing yet.
Yeah,
I know that's a problem. Okay. So I know, because even when I was hosting that screening of The Holiday, which by the way was the best book-related event I've ever done in my entire career.
Yay!
The most well-attended. It felt so good. It was just, I want every book event I do to have some sort of movie tie-in. But a few people wrote and said, well, I really hated that movie, or I didn't like Cameron Diaz in that movie. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I agree to disagree. But the crying thing would come up. And okay, so this is my little sob story. So when I was a kid, my parents divorced also. And it's kind of a core memory that we had a nice day and we'd gone downtown or done all these nice things. And then I was all excited that we were all going to have family story time, because as a writer, loved getting, it was very rare about a budding writer. That was my favorite thing. My brother and my parents would get in one of our rooms and we'd read story together. So my parents made it seem like it was going to be family story time, but then it was we're getting a divorce.
Oh, no.
I know, very sad. So, and I think, I actually think about it sometimes, because sometimes things get really good in my life and then I'm like, oh God, everything's going to fall apart. You do carry that with you. So I never, when Cameron Diaz was well, this happened to me. Plus, they were the Three Musketeers. And like when her parents told her they were getting a divorce, she thought everything was fine, but her dad's suitcase was already packed in the corner. Like, to me, I was like, that makes sense that would do something to you. And maybe it was a little bit of a cheap, tactic to be like, she can't cry. But it also felt to me like it would take a little too much explaining or plot twisting to try to make it something else. I didn't hate that. And I loved that release of her crying in the car on the way. And you realize, okay, she's going back. Like, that's the payoff that I'm always looking for in a romance or a rom-com. And I think that really delivered. So, and I can see it. Like, I could see, actually my older brother can't cry, and I'm sure it's a tear duct thing. Oh. Like, but you could say that it's because we had this family story time gone awry. Like, it does happen to people.
Sure.
It does. So it happens.
I know it does happen. I've always objected to that as sort of like,
I think I called you cold-hearted once because of that.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
and I understand that it could seem that way. I just find it, like, to me, like, it just keeps coming up in the most awkward ways. Like, they keep shoehorning it. Like, when she's having the breakup scene and he's all like, what woman breaks up with her boyfriend and isn't crying? I'm just like, I don't know, the one who's angry about the fact that you had sex with your assistant. Like it just, and it continues. And so she's asked him this question in the restaurant about like what his parents did for work. And then he's like, okay, let's talk about you. And then she's all like, okay, here's my tragic little story. And like, then she that's it. Like, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't work for me. And I think partly it might be, even though I do like Cameron Diaz a lot, I don't think she sells it that well.
Okay, fair. But at least no one's fat shaming anybody or, sexually demoralizing anyone.
Sure. I agree.
You're right. It's imperfect storytelling. Whereas Love Actually, the storytelling is almost perfect until all of those dangling threads. So I think you're right.
As I watch it year after year, though, I find myself less and less interested in the Cameron Diaz half of the movie, and it just seems like in my mind, because now like you're just watching it at home for the 10th time, and I can just sort of like tune out my brain a little bit with the Cameron Diaz half of the story and really focus more on the Kate Winslet story. And what I noticed about it this time is that it feels like they're on two different timelines. Like, it feels like Cameron Diaz is having this really quick, fun holiday, while like the character of Iris is like becoming a member of this community. Like, she knows the workers. She's like rehabilitated somebody.
Yeah.
He can suddenly walk. I know that is. Yeah. And they have this whole goal.
Like, it feels like she's been there for a month.
Yeah.
And she's like now part of this community. And it doesn't feel like she's on a vacation. It feels like she's kind of moved there now. And that's where she should be.
Yeah, I think that, the fact that they all kind of end up where they end up too, back in their own lives. If I were writing it, I really need a loophole for I needed Cameron Diaz's story to be set up as like she had it out from her life. Whereas you look at it and you're like, this isn't going to work. She's a workaholic. He has 2 kids. He's not going anywhere. That's literally what she says in that scene where she's like, oh, or we get together, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's totally what's happening. But the Kate Winslet side, and also she's always packing her bag and she's about to leave, whereas you're like, you can't leave because Kate Winslet is so much going on in LA. Like, she could never leave. Like, she's just gonna have to live at your house with you. Yeah, which wouldn't be the worst thing. What if Cameron Diaz?
It's big enough.
Oh, it's big enough.
Yeah. What if they all ended up there? She's like, well, I have to go, and then the girls can. And there are alternates.
There are alternates.
Everyone could be there. Yeah.
Can I just bring it back to Love Actually for one moment? Mm-hmm. Marissa, what is your favorite storyline in Love Actually?
Oh boy. Well, okay. I have a favorite storyline, but then it returns to hate.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, the Carl and what's her name? Laura Linney's character.
Oh yeah.
I know that's not, but I kind of love when they dance. Like,
I know.
That just to me is so beautiful, and he starts twirling her hair.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, but literally everything else about that, and the fact that they're not together at the end is just so upsetting. So, but then I don't think I can say I really have another one, because All of them are just too upsetting. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, that's
My
fine.
favorite, you know what my favorite storyline in Love Actually is? The dance scene with Hugh Grant. That's it. It's like,
Jump for your love, that one?
jump for your love.
Yeah.
Mine are the Mr. Bean scenes.
My all-time favorite scene in Love Actually is when Mark has had his obsession with Juliet revealed, and he goes outside, and the Dido song swells up, and he pulls up the zipper on his sweater at the exact same moment that the Dido song like really hits, and then he's like storming up to like past the shopping center, and he suddenly crouches down and like yells in frustration and jumps back up, and the old man with shopping bags jumps back.
He startled that man.
Love that scene.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's perfect every year, and I love that moment.
You're
Hate
right.
everything
I
else
noticed
about
that last
but
night.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good.
I did notice that last night. I'm like, that man. And how many takes do you think that took? They're like, nope, too scared. No.
I'm gonna make a bold suggestion that they did that once, and they said
One
we're gonna
take.
leave it in.
Perfect.
We're gonna leave it in.
You're right. That is, and he's got a good sweater. Again, that is an example of a great sweater. Both movies have great sweaters.
Yeah, it's a good sweater
but
game.
that's a good sweater.
Yeah.
And you're right. And the way he keeps, because I don't like that storyline, but the way he walks out, turns around, you think he's going to go back, and you're like, what are you even going to say? Like, there's nothing to say. And he seems to realize that, and you're realizing that. It is very good
That's the
at
thing,
that moment.
The acting in Love Actually, for the large part, is pretty good. Like, one of the things that I love about it, even in the rewatch, is that I always find the performances compelling, even if I hate the people, the characters. Not like the people, the actors, but hate
The
some
words,
of the characters.
the dialogue.
No.
the
Sometimes I hate the
relationships.
words, sometimes I hate the dialogue, for sure. But like, there's still an hour-long movie in that 2 hours that I love.
Okay, and another quick question on Love Actually. Talking about timelines. I mean, at least within the holiday, there's time zones. But what in Love Actually? So one person's at a funeral at the same time as there's a wedding on in the afternoon? Like,
Yes.
Okay, but I would argue that we don't need when it comes to true holiday rom-coms, details. Like, if this were a true holiday rom-com, yeah, totally, it's fine.
was like, okay, it just seemed.
Didn't you know there was like a whole time worm? And didn't you see that part of the story? It's just like, it's just space and time mean nothing.
Okay, all right, I'll settle down again.
It's not for you to know. It's like, how does Santa go to everybody's house? Like, we don't know.
We can't
it's
know.
not for us to know. Yeah.
We don't
Okay.
know about, like, 8 is a lot of legs, David, as she says. Like, just the lobster has the legs it has. We don't know how they got
Okay,
there.
wow.
So, yes, but I would be more concerned with Love Actually about, like, poor Emma Stone standing in her room saying, ugh, I look fat and everything. And
Emma Thompson.
husband
I'll just
Emma Thompson. Sorry, not Emma Stone. Yeah.
Look, if we had either one, frankly, but yeah, Emma. Well, and they dress her in this like frumpiest outfits.
Yes,
Yeah, no, I know.
but then he doesn't say anything, and then she says she can only wear things that Pavarotti would wear, and he's like, "Well, what? Ugh,
I know, it's awful. It's
it's
truly
awful." There's so many things, and I feel, oh gosh, we were so conditioned, especially like it was the Love Actually.
Yeah.
Is like the '90s conditioned us to accept all of this, and then just kind of served it up in what we thought was maybe going to be a nice Christmas movie, and it sits almost like a weight in my sternum. I mean, it really is. Like, even the names are escaping me, but
That's
the
fine.
terrible rock star guy,
Bill Nye.
and when Bill Nye, when he makes a joke about how Britney was rubbish,
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
and everyone does this sort of male locker room laugh, and there's just so much of that, and that just.
How about the very fact that there are two people pretending to be in a porn movie,
I know,
making
but they're not
simulated sex scenes?
But they're body doubles for actors.
Yeah,
this
but-
is it's not a porn. Is it a porn?
It sure looks like
I don't
one.
think it's a porn. I think it's just body doubles for actors who happen to be making an R-rated film.
But by the way, come on, there's no film where anybody ever has that much sex ever. That's not a porn. It's
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm
maybe
saying,
they-
I thought.
In all honesty, in Richard Curtis's mind, I bet he was remaking Caligula. For like just a modern.
With Martin Freeman and
Christmas-
Caligula.
A Christmas retelling of Caligula.
This is so festive. Never mind.
And poor little Stacy. Well, that's what I call her because she was in Gavin and Stacey, which was my favorite British rom-com.
Yeah.
How could he do that to her?
Yeah, it's just watching it this time. It was just like such a series of like just a kick in the pants, like every few minutes. Like it just doesn't want you to have anything.
No.
No.
Doesn't want you to have anything.
And
Well,
even the little boy, and that's so sweet. But there's some. By the way, I don't know. There's just something about him. He's just so weirdly mature that I'm like, oh.
Is it the
this a
fact that he's
problem.
only a couple of years younger than Keira Knightley was in that movie?
That might be part of it.
it also doesn't really help that Liam Neeson's character is constantly saying that he's gonna like kick him out because he wants to have sex with a woman.
With Claudia Schiffer.
His
Yeah,
mother
that's
and
terrible.
wife died. They buried her not 4
What's the
weeks earlier
timeline?
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I know time doesn't mean anything, but like last night I was especially like just like bleh, about just how in 2003 not all of us.
The
but
expectation
some of us
is if you
ate it
are
up as
8,
cute.
the expectation is that if you're an 8-year-old boy and your mother dies, that you start dating 4 weeks later.
And encouraging your stepfather to have a love life as well. When he says, I never ask you about your love life, your mom just died, kid. Anyway.
Wait, that's his stepfather?
Yeah.
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 That's
Oh, I
like,
think I missed that.
'cause he
What
says-
happened to his dad?
we don't know. He says, Liam Neeson's character says at one point, the stepdad thing seems to mean something now in a way that it never did before because, like, I guess, now he is the sole parent. And
There's a whole bunch of really awkward exposition when Emma Thompson arrives at Liam Neeson's place, which I don't even know why she was
I
there.
maybe just like, I was probably just sort of
But also
spiraling at that point.
that moment at the beginning is so weird too, where she's just like, I know your wife just died, but I can't talk to you on the phone right now.
Yeah,
Bye.
I know.
Gotta see what my kid wants to take for lunch to
Look,
school.
guys, I actually think that's good boundaries. She's probably been talking about this dead wife for months.
Yep.
Like, the woman didn't die out of nowhere. The woman was able to design her own funeral and make sure that the Bay City Rollers were playing. She knew what was coming.
This is true. Okay, but we're talking about grief because so in the holiday, I was always a little confused, and I find myself always feeling a little jarred by the fact that Jude Law kind of shows up and he's like, oh, I do this all the time where I go out and get wasted.
And pretend I don't
And then I have to sleep on my sister's couch.
Yeah.
And then, but by the way, I'm the sole caregiver and all I do is take care of these girls, which I'm like, who's with them when you don't come home? And by the way, like that's not good.
He
Like,
also
that is-
says that when she says, I don't sleep with strangers, and he goes, oh, I do all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
there
then
was
also
that.
at the end when they're talking about New Year's Eve, he's like, I have the girls on New Year's Eve. And it's like, no kidding.
Yeah, you're a dad.
Only parent.
Yeah.
But also all the nights when he was just going out and getting plowed and then sleeping on his sister's couch, presumably until noon the next day. Who had the girls?
I like to
He
think
said
the
his
parents.
parents had
Yeah.
he said his parents have the girls.
Oh, see, I missed that. But why couldn't they have them on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, exactly. Great
'Cause
question.
they're out.
I guess they had their
You
own
know,
plans,
yeah, they're
maybe.
out.
I don't know. Well, obviously, like, we could talk with you forever, and you're our new best friend, so we can't wait.
One of
when-
us. One of
Yeah,
us.
one of us.
Yes,
for sure, one of us.
absolutely.
Like, oh my god.
Absolutely. I would do this anytime.
Thank you so much. We like to sort of like say, like, does this pop? So like we'll ask them separately. For you, does the holiday still pop?
Absolutely.
Great.
It makes me feel everything that I want to feel at this time of year.
How about does love actually pop?
If you mean like by making me very upset, angry, and triggered.
Yes.
Yes. It does. Thank you for asking.
What of us then?
Perfect.
Us, Lisa, and myself.
I feel that you guys are going to be okay. Lisa, I'll ask you first.
The holiday
Does the
pops
holiday-
more. I just also want to add that the holiday over the years has become more and more loved they're thinking of maybe a, like a
Sequel.
sequel every year.
Yeah.
So, and Love Actually, no, worse every year.
Fair enough. AG, how about you?
I still don't like Love Actually. But I will say that with the holiday, I feel like it's breaking me. Like it's the 10th year I've watched it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is okay. I'm enjoying watching this. I enjoy it a little bit more every year. And I don't know if it's because, my expectations are getting lower or something, but yeah, this year when I watched it, I found it a perfectly pleasant holiday movie to watch. And I'm seemingly minding it less and less every year. Whereas my rage about Love Actually is consistent.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So I will say Love Actually continues to be a difficult film to love. There's still a movie in there that I love, but it continues to challenge. I still find it more interesting than The Holiday, but I have come to appreciate The Holiday a lot more. And obviously I love Eli Wallach, and that's like a big part of how much I love that movie. I'm also going to walk back what I said earlier. Even though they have great chemistry, I don't want them to hook up. I'm not re-wishing that because I actually think it's extremely important for people like of the opposite sex to have friendships and platonic relationships. And there's too many situations where old dudes try to get young women to fall in love with them. And
Well,
I don't
if
want
it
any more of
happened
that.
anywhere, LA would make sense, though.
Oh no,
What
100%.
if she put on Devil Horse? I'm sorry. Just to make sure that we knew.
To
that
make
she
sure
was
that we know
down.
she's down. Yeah, she is the seductress.
No, you're right. And that, honestly, I could watch an entire movie about him with the Hans Zimmerman music.
Yeah.
Dreamy.
Well, this has been delightful. We like to also end, like, you know what? Palate cleanse that Love Actually right out of your mouth, Marissa. Tell us what you recommend personally.
So my dear friend, the author Carrie Clare, has a great podcast called Bookspo, and I have really enjoyed that this year. So she has authors on and asks them the inspiration behind their most recent novel, and it's always something surprising. Recently, there's an author named Susie Krauss who wrote a really brilliant book called I Think We've Been Here Before, and her Bookspo was Ian Reid's I'm Thinking of Ending Things and Stuart McLean's Final Cafe Story.
Amazing.
Like, it's just amazing. So I love that. And then it just goes on to talk about the craft, etc. She also has a great Substack called Pickle Me This, where she writes a literary essay every month. And I love that. And I think my gauge when it's someone I know and love is, do I forget that it's someone I know and love creating this? And,
Yeah.
And I always do. Like, I look forward to the episode. So Bookspo with Carrie Clare.
That's awesome. I recommended that earlier last year, maybe. And I did an episode of it as well and got to talk about my Dirty Dancing book and got to talk about the script for Dirty Dancing. And Carrie's been a guest on the podcast a couple times, and we love her.
She's great. Yes, love her.
Yay. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Lisa, what are you recommending?
Yeah, so Bill Cunningham, if anyone was a fan of the New York Times style photographer, he died a few years ago. But I saw the documentary. I used to get the New York Times just for his pictures. He wrote a memoir, which kind of ends just as he's going to start a photography career, because he was a hat designer for a long time. Anyway, he didn't want the memoir to be released until after he died.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I am reading this right now, and even though I saw the documentary about him and saw his photos, his voice is still quite different. And so he's this young boy in Boston in the 1930s. He loves fashion more than anything. His family is mortified by him. They do everything they can to stop him. He, gets jobs and saves up his money so he can buy his mother a fox coat, like a stole, and she won't wear it because it's too flashy. But he does manage to have a wonderful time. He makes to go to prom. He has a best friend in high school, and the two of them get super dressed up together. And so it's just being with someone who just loves and they know what they love so much. It's just a very sweet, sweet voice.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, and it's called Fashion Climbing, Bill Cunningham.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. E.G., what about you?
I'm going to recommend some music just because I've been thinking about like my favorite albums of the year. And I'm going to recommend an album called Dunya by Mustafa, who's like a Sudanese Canadian musician from Toronto, makes kind of like music that it's hard to categorize. It's kind of folk. It's a little bit of R&B and soul. It's a bit indie. But this is his full-length debut. It came out this year, and the songs are just so beautiful. And it's about, like his life in Toronto, which was often, like he experienced violence in Toronto and eventually had to move. He now lives in LA, and it's just sort of like really deep ruminations on like his life there and what happened to him. And it's a very moving album if you get a chance to listen to it.
Great. I like him a lot.
It's fantastic. I had the chance to write about it a little bit for CBC Music, and I love it. I'm going to go in a whole other direction, but I want to recommend this because this episode comes out the day before Christmas. Or does it come out on Christmas Day? Good Lord, Christmas Day. This episode will come out on Christmas Day. You should all watch if you want to have a little bit of fun. It's not perfect, but it's fun. Sabrina Carpenter's new Christmas special.
Oh, okay.
A Nonsense Christmas with Sabrina Carpenter.
Ooh.
It's really silly and fun, and there's some great little guests, and having a real good time. You can tell she's having a good time, and I especially loved it. This isn't like a surprise. It's already like been on Instagram, but her and Chappell Roan do Last Christmas, and it's so good, and I love it so much. And yeah, it's just a fun 40 minutes that you'll be able to watch with your family. I say put captions on so you can see all the clever wordplay of her innuendos and have fun with that.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
I have to put captions on because I think I can't hear or something anymore.
We do captions on because we watch a lot of TV with my grandma, but then we decided we just would leave it on all the time, and it's really helped.
I think I like it, except when you get a line before it comes, and then
Yes.
you're like, oh. But no, that's a great tip. I'll watch that with my teenage daughter, who I took to the Eras tour in Vancouver.
yeah,
you did. Wow.
That's maybe so I'm still on a high from that. So yeah, we'll watch that together because she's now my best friend forever.
Yeah, of course. That was an amazing show.
Yeah.
Wild. Well, that's a whole other
Yeah,
all right.
another podcast.
Whole other podcast. Marissa,
Well,
thank you so much.
for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where do you want people to find you online?
So I'm on Instagram at Marissa Stapley. That's where I am. I have a website, marissastapley.com, but mostly, on Instagram.
Or
Thank you.
any fine bookstore.
Any fine bookstore.
Yes.
And, on Christmas Day, it's definitely too late to buy my books. However, I read and consume holiday stuff all year. So the Holiday Honeymoon Switch is out, and the Lightning Bottles, and also Lucky, which we didn't talk about, is the Apple TV show. Oh, yes, we did talk about it.
Just a little
They
bit,
just announced the director today, and it's all very exciting. So
That's cool. Who's the director?
it's Jonathan. He did Shogun.
Oh, cool.
wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
Van something? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Van Tulican, right? So
Wow.
they had kind of teased, and then they had said, we have this great director, but we can't tell you who. And then I just got tagged in a post, and I was like, oh my God, like that's kind of cool.
I
Incredible.
love Shogun.
Yeah.
It's one of the best TV series I saw this year.
I know. I think that Lucky, this TV series, is going to be really something. So I'm pretty excited. There's other casting announcements I can't say, but you'll see them and you'll be like, holy S word.
Well,
I know we're not supposed to swear on this.
no, I'm very excited though, because when it comes out, we'll watch it and then we'll try to get you to come and talk to us about it. Oh my God.
I would love to. Yeah. We could why do we love Lucky better than we love something else?
You know what? Sometimes we just do something dedicated to one show. We don't even have to
All right.
compare and contrast. We can just savor it and adore it.
Exactly.
Amazing.
That sounds like a Christmas song. Savor and adore. Sorry.
That's what my new obsession will be next year. I'm no longer content to curate Christmas lists and songs. I'm now going to write my own.
Love it.
Yeah.
Do it.
That's what I'm moving into. Thank you so much, Marissa. Thank you everyone
Thank
for
you, Marissa.
listening. We
for having
really
me.
appreciate all of you sticking with us. My God, y'all, you've been here 10 years. We've been doing this this fight. So, I mean, honestly, Merry Christmas. And that's really just what a champion you all have been as we've done this to ourselves and you. And thank you so much. You can rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes. Because just think about those 5 stars on that little tree. All right.
All right. And thanks to Andrea Gin, our co-host and producer here. And also, gosh, thanks for watching these movies for 10 years. Like, my goodness. You didn't even start this.
Over.
You did.
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with this. You're an innocent bystander.
I never do. I never do, Lisa.
Aren't you so glad we started recording from home?
Yes.
Every day you're like, there aren't a lot of blessings about the pandemic, but this is one.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, happy Christmas Day, everybody.
Yeah,
If this is
Merry
from your-
Christmas. I'll say it in Danish. Glædelig jul.
Wow.
Wow. Impressive.
Fancy. I'm
Feliz
not doing
Navidad. Do you want me
anything
to keep going? No, that's all I know.
fancy. Yep. Joyeux
Do it.
Noël.
Keep going.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.